Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Facette, and on this episode, we get to meet 3/4, anyway, of Animal Collective. Joining me on this chat is Panda Bear, aka Noah Lennox, Deakin, aka Josh Dibb, and Geologist, aka Brian Weitz. I did incidentally have Avey Tare, aka Dave Portner, on a few months back, maybe even a couple years back, when he had his last solo project out. But I was very, very excited to have the three other guys on and now sort of complete my Animal Collective conversation collective. Because they just reissued this past fall their beloved Feels record for its 20th anniversary. And in this conversation, Noah, Josh, and Brian and I all talk about Feels, the individual songs on it, the production of some of them, the sort of DIY production of some of them, and what these songs mean to them now, fond memories of certain ones, and even a little bit of myth busting along the way. I was so grateful to them to come on and chat for a while. I've been listening to them probably since Feels, and it is and remains my favorite Animal Collective record. So I was really happy to get to kind of dive into its history and its legacy with 3/4 of the band. It was a very personable talk. I think you'll get that very quickly, that these guys have known each other for a long time friends. And you can see and feel the camaraderie and the synergy that they share. And it was really great getting to revisit this sort of high water mark that was the beginning of quite a breakthrough for them in terms of visibility and commercial success and critical success. So if you've ever been a fan of the band or are especially a fan of Feels, then this chat is absolutely for you. But it's a good conversation nevertheless. So thank you for listening. This is me meeting Animal Collective. Well, hi, Noah, Brian, Josh. How are you guys?
Good, thanks.
Well,
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm very happy that you're all here. For the record, because this won't be visual, can everyone just kind of say who they are?
This is Brian's voice, Geologist.
Hey, this is Josh. I'm Deacon.
And this is Noah. I'm Panda Bear in Animal Collective. All our voices kind of sound the same, so it probably doesn't help. But
I have to try.
Yeah, we can periodically chime in and say who's speaking. We've had to do that before.
I know I don't post the video, so people are going to have to hopefully follow along. But I do appreciate you guys all coming to hang out for a while. I think this is the most people I've had on a call yet.
oh, cool.
Which I'm happy about. It's fun. And I have had Dave on before, so with his last solo record. So I've collected all the Animal Collective, which is kind of nice.
Cool.
So thanks for coming and hanging out for a little bit.
Are we going now?
We are, yeah, it's recording. We're going. Where are we all beaming in from, by the way?
Baltimore.
I'm in Washington, D.C.
I'm in Lisbon, Portugal.
Okay. Well, yeah, and then a special thanks to Noah because it's getting late there. I don't know how late you stay up normally, but
It's a good time, just
Okay.
post dinner. Yeah. Where are you
Okay.
calling from?
I'm in Connecticut, so I'm same time zone as them, so that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
So the main reason that I invited you guys here today, and I kind of just threw it out there to the band, and I was just like, well, who can come hang out and chat for a little while? And it was mostly because of the 20th anniversary of Feels, which just happened maybe a month ago, I think the 20th came out. The reissue with some B-sides, demos, live takes. And that's the main occasion for having us here. I mean, you've done this before with Sung Tongs. You guys did the 20th anniversary of Sung Tongs as well. But I'm curious, with revisiting Feels specifically, what was sort of for you guys the most interesting part about revisiting this point in time in your careers?
I really enjoyed the I'd say it was actually a little nerd. Dave really it's a shame he spoke to him recently and he didn't join this one because he really went through the archival stuff more than everybody else because it was at his house.
Mm.
I, I had a little bit of trepidation. He made this video that we showed at a record store and it's on YouTube now. I had a little bit of trepidation watching that because to me this was one of the more fun, like easygoing. It's like one of my best memories, music or otherwise, was the recording of this record, and he had this video footage from it, and I didn't really want to revisit it because I don't know, I just wasn't sure if like watching it would then change my memories or make me not trust what I remember.
Mm.
But I really it everything we've done so far, like listening to the live recordings or watching that video, even like Josh and I got to go back into the space where we recorded it a couple weeks ago. Um, Everything's been really emotional in a good way. Like it's just reinforced my positive memories and positive feelings as opposed to making me wonder if things happened the way I remembered them or felt or the way I feel about them.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Well, that's good though that it reinforced as opposed to tearing it down. I mean, that's kind of a risk, I guess, when you revisit something that was such a bright spot for you 20 years on, because, time changes things.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just echo him. I think it was a really uniquely, not, it makes it sound like everything else is a bad time, but it was a really special time. I think we were all kind of coming of a certain age, and I think awareness of sort of what, what we'd been trying to do and had been doing since we were high schoolers and didn't really have an expectation of having what we do feel received, and it was being received in a really cool way and starting to feel the kind of growth of that, and at the same time feeling just kind of joy in the creative process in a really pure way. I think there was something about I think there's even something about the approach of that record. I mean, I guess maybe Sung Tongs is sort of similarly minimal, but it's actually a very minimal record. I think Dave and I didn't really there. Most other records we've ever worked on, there's always been some sense of like, this is the sound I'm going to do for this song, and this is the sound I'm going to do for this song. And as far as Dave and I were, and I'm sure Brian and Noah have their own versions of this, like I kind of just had a guitar sound, and it's what I used for pretty much every song. One, maybe, what is the last song on the record is which I'm blanking on the actual title of it now.
Turn into something.
Turn into something.
Yeah.
That one was like maybe one of the
something
ones
else.
that I had to like retune my guitar in a really different way and but for the most part it just was this like very simplified approach to getting into sort of like the rhythmic counterpoint between all of us and not a lot of variables in that sense. And I think it had this really locomotive kind of purity to it in that way that I really appreciate. And it felt like it was still there, going back and listening to the demos, and just being like, yeah, it was just there. We just anyway, so.
Yeah.
That song had a different name when we did it. It's funny to think about all the songs that I kind of still think of as that first name. Do you know what I mean, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about
Purple.
to say something else when Josh asked what the title of that song was.
No, I know that's the title that was in my head, and I wasn't. It's an NSFW kind of title, but
I mean, just to respect the fact that some of us didn't want to use that title, I'm not going to mention it. But it's funny to think how many titles I still think, how many songs I still think of that original title. When to other people, it's probably known by a different thing. This is also the first time that. I mean, Rusty, we knew a little bit. This is the first time we worked with somebody else recording something where we really didn't know them at all going into the thing. And
I met him once, and like we corresponded when I was a kid buying records from him. But
we were a fan for sure, but we hadn't spent a whole lot of time with him. So it was kind of like a question mark, like how it was going to go, and the fact that he
courtroom once.
The fact that he wanted to have us in his house and we were going to live there, it was all just sort of like a big question mark. So it was exciting, but it was also a little bit, you just didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me too, because, this was, I think, only like the second record that the four of you had been on. It wasn't the first, but it wasn't that many, because I think you guys had been on Arc all as a foursome, and then I don't know if
Yeah.
there was another one, but
No, that was it.
that was
Vanguard
it.
was the one before this, yeah.
Yeah, and then Sung Tongs was not the group of four, but Sung Tongs was kind of in like the mid 2000s blogosphere, era. That was kind of one of the first ones that kind of broke you guys through to the bigger audience. And then Feels came and I think broke you guys through even more. But with all that being said, I mean, having the other two there, having all four of you there for Feels, did you guys do you remember feeling any kind of like pressure to live up to Sung Tongs? Because at the time it was, I think, your best reviewed album, and it definitely was your farthest reaching album in terms of like the audience, I think.
I don't know what the other guys felt. To me,
I
it felt
didn't.
like it was too soon in our arc to kind of even have time to have those kinds of feelings. I think it was
Sure.
just that whole kind of early 2000s was such a sort of yeah, we had moved to New York and we're just kind of like starting to do this thing that we had been doing in our bedrooms in high school, and it just the fact that anything was catching, it just was what was happening. I don't think there was a lot of time for reflection about it. I think maybe an album or two later, I think there started to be some, Strawberry Jam was an album where we talked about how Feels felt, not necessarily in terms of audience response, but like
Hmm.
there was this like reactive element to it. And I think that kind of self-consciousness started to happen, but I personally didn't feel like it was there for Feels. I felt like it was just to move forward.
I
Mm.
don't think we made something that we thought was really good where we got a really bad response from it yet. So it was kind of I didn't expect anything. It just sort of seemed like everything was going good, going good. Now it's kind of a different story. We've had a bunch of different reactions, so
Yeah.
how I go into a thing is really different now than then.
Yeah. I mean, do you think there was sort of like you say, Josh, it was kind of so early on, there's almost like a unawareness of that, or like maybe just like sort of like it's just not a factor yet that you're kind of still just doing what you want to do.
Yeah, I think we had a very deep set sense and still do of doing what we want to do and not
Yeah.
really wanting to be in response. I
Right.
think we've learned that it's cool to be in engagement with an audience or with a fan base, but I think in terms of being aware that okay, these people love our music, but I don't think we've always felt really strongly that the reason to make stuff, the creative burst and the creative expression are completely self motivated. And I think if it was that much more solid and that much more innocent, then I think like in a sense, kind of what Noah's saying, we hadn't really had the experience of being anything other than just doing what we do and
Yeah.
receiving the response. And I mean, it wasn't always, that was the beginning of us starting to go like, oh man, we're filling some kind of big rooms. That's cool. But we'd already
Right.
had the experience of doing what we do and really believing in it and playing to a room of three
Right.
and seeing two of those people walk out of the room and go like, well, all right, I guess it wasn't our night. But we didn't feel any like, oh, we messed up or should we do something different? We're just like, well, not for them or, so yeah, I think there was
Yeah.
just a,
We also didn't have friends who didn't seem to care anymore at that point. Like
Mm.
everybody was like still excited.
Excited about Animal Collective?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Feels also is an interesting point in your discography because then, as you mentioned, came Strawberry Jam, and I feel like, I personally, I think I came to know you guys when Feels came out, but I do feel like Strawberry Jam was a huge moment for you guys as a band in terms of scale and visibility and just sort of, I mean, you played late night TV for the first time. I talked about that with Dave because I very distinctly remember you guys playing number one on whatever show that was. And I found that really
Conan.
Conan,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And I found that really funny that you guys played number one. But it was a big
Nope,
deal
that
that
wasn't what we were supposed to play.
I
Yeah.
know.
There was a
Yeah.
story there.
I know. I think I
He,
remember he
Maybe
told
Dave
me,
told him.
yeah,
Yeah.
you were supposed to play Peace Bone, but they wanted you to like cut it or something.
Mhm.
yeah.
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 So what were you gonna say? Go on.
Just that. Yeah, you got the story.
Yeah.
The songs that seemed like they'd be better, like this would be good
Yeah.
for late night. Can you please edit it? And we were just like, nope, we're not going to
Yeah.
do that. So
Well, we didn't tell them that, and that's until the day of, which is why they were pissed. But
Well,
right.
I think by the I mean, nobody overstepped their boundaries or anything, but I think it was sort of the people who were corresponding with them on our behalf it was sort of assumed that we would do that, and then I think once we kind of learned about it, we said we didn't want to do that, and it was
Yeah.
just sort of different perspectives on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
the first of many, I should say.
Yeah, that was like an interesting element of that kind of arc that I guess to some degree had already been happening and continued through the 2000s, is that the labels that we put out our own records initially, and then we initially were working with such small labels that it was kind of like we could do whatever we want, and there was never any kind of sense of pushback or like, well, can't you do it this way?
Right.
And that was the beginning of starting to get those things of like, well, wait, can you do like a radio edit? Can you like, it'd be really cool if you could do this song, it'd be really cool if you did the show. And we would say no to a lot of things. Like we really didn't want to do things unless they felt honest to us. And I think we started to feel some amount of that pushback, but we also were experiencing whatever kind of inexplicable rise that was happening. And we literally had labels say to us, like, we don't really know why what you're doing is working. Like it doesn't really fit. Like you're not checking the boxes that we would normally encourage a band to check,
Right.
but it's working. So we are kind of going to go like, all right, like do your thing. I mean, not exclusively, but there was some of that energy of just kind of like, all right. And I think that sort of speaks again to some of the kind of innocent, self-driven, just sort of like we do things our way. This is how we're going. And there wasn't a lot of like questioning about it. We just were like, yeah, we do this and it works. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, we questioned them, I'd say, but
Yeah.
sometimes not. And it was like, it was funny because I made a joke about it this weekend at Guess Who. I ran into Dave Howell, who used to work at the label Fat Cat that put out Fields, and basically like approached Dave and Noah about putting out Sung Tongs and approached us about reissuing Spirit and Dance Manatee. And he was the reason we were on that label. And back in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, being on a British label, and honestly, it continued with Domino because they're essentially a British label too. Like we signed with the American office, but we're with them worldwide. But when you're in England, you're like, and this sounds like I'm saying it with an attitude, but I'm just repeating kind of maybe what my attitude was. Like England kind of thinks of itself as like it's very contained, and they really care. It's like so focused on what's happening on the island, and we would get asked to play these shows, or they would tell us our tours needed to be longer to hit all these small towns in England, and we would be like, for what? Like we wouldn't play those kinds of cities in America, not because we don't want to, just like because of time,
Yeah.
And like, why would you play like in America? Sometimes you think like, why would you play shows that are like just like an hour apart from each other? You know what I mean?
Right,
like it's smaller than America, so like, why would you do it? But in England, it's like, no, you got to hit everywhere. And so I ran into Dave Howell this past weekend, and we hadn't seen each other in like 10, 15 years. I don't even know. Maybe not that long, but it'd been a while. We had a really great time reconnecting. At some point, we were talking about new bands he's managing and shows they're playing, and he starts naming all these small English towns. Like, yeah, they had a great show here, and and I didn't really recognize some places. And I was like, man, you remember? Like, I don't know where you're talking. I wasn't paying attention to those cities. Like don't you remember? We constantly were like, why are you sending us to these places? But
Yeah.
With age, it's like I get it. I mean, people know their areas and they know their scenes, and but yeah, I think sometimes we were a little we were a little questioning maybe when we should have just been like, yeah, we'll listen. But I don't know.
Well, I mean,
when I bring up that, because like I think Josh is right in a lot of instances. Sometimes I just wish I'd be like, yeah, I'll go play a show there, because
yeah,
when else am I going to be in that town?
sure.
Everybody's got their own little worlds. It's good to try to respect that generally.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as Josh was saying, there was this kind of inexplicable rise happening, and I feel like it really started to be noticeable at large with Fields, and then kind of Strawberry Jam, and then obviously especially Merryweather really exploded that. But Fields was like a turning point in my mind for the band in terms of all that stuff. So I do want to get into Fields. It is probably my favorite Animal Collective record. I don't know if you guys even think of your records that way, but it is a record that means a lot to a lot of people. Are you guys aware of that kind of thing when you reissue something? Like, is that something that weighs on you guys at all?
what like
I
knowing
think
what
we kind of know what like some of the hierarchies are in terms of like
Right.
popular opinion.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But
yeah,
I
like
think for,
what people think, not us.
I think for us, it's like each record. I think when anybody asks me, and I, other guys, different interests, but like, what's your favorite or whatever. I think it's much more. They're not favorites. Each of them represent this like bubble
Sure.
in time and this experience and a certain way of interacting. And I think especially because of the way that we go about approaching each record and each one kind of having a unique set of tools and parameters and approaches that are different from any other record that we've done. They really represent time capsules and don't.
Yeah.
I can talk about good memories or bad memories or good feelings or bad feelings from different eras, and that kind of is part of it. But it doesn't really turn into like a hierarchy in that same
Right.
way to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned that the windows between releases at this time were pretty slim. Were the songs on Feels, were those kind of crafted on the road or improv kind of on the road and kind of born by that method? Because I know you guys have done that in the past. Or was it more contained than that?
We definitely played, I think, all of them before we recorded them. Maybe not turned into something. Maybe that was a
Yeah,
new one at the time.
but we may have practiced it once or twice. I mean, so the idea that we came up with songs through improvising is like not entirely true.
I literally
Everything,
had a question. Is that even true?
well,
No.
it's just a way of like phrasing it, I would say.
Yeah.
The songs are developed, maybe is a better word, through playing live, but the framework, especially around this time with Feels, even with like looser stuff like around Dance Man or Herlinda again, the songs were always written. They had some open-ended like places, I guess. But also just um, people's parts were just developed and changed over time. So we would go on the road or play shows with like very primal versions of the songs where everybody was maybe doing something like simpler than they would be doing at the end stage of it with recording. And a lot of the ideas that made it to the recording might be something that someone thought of on stage, or like by the end, I always phrase it like, if by the end of a tour I was really bored with a certain part of a song, then by the next tour I would try and like be like, well, I don't want to play that thing anymore,
Yeah.
And so like the live performance and the touring contributed in a huge way to the final forms of the songs, but again, especially around this period, like the songs were written in terms of like what you think of as the song. Like if somebody was going to pick up a guitar right now and just play the songs, that was written for the most, generally like before it was ever on a stage.
It always when I hear comedians talk about how they refine bits or whatever, it reminds me of that. Where I mean, as Brian said, there was sort of like a framework for the song that came usually from Dave, especially at this point, it came from Dave. And then kind of over time in the shows, you sort of whittle it down to like the thing that feels the best. And by the time we would go into recording, we'd kind of all found the version of doing the thing that felt sort of like most efficient and most powerful. And that's what we tried to lay down.
And is that sort of like sculpting method something that persisted for a while, or did you guys end up like having to change your formula?
Well,
I think so. It depends on the record. Like for Painting With, we didn't do that. And I think when I look back at like the live touring we did for Painting With after the record for a year and a half, by the end of that touring, I was like, I was coming up with things on stage that I was like, I wish I had played that on the record, but we intentionally did it differently that time. But for a lot of the records,
this is right when I moved away. So kind of the process totally changed after this.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't like get together as much to practice.
Centipede was the anomaly, but everything else has been different.
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, it had been like we all live in the same place and we would get together over the course of, months and develop stuff. But this was like, hey, we're like, let's have Noah come over for 10 days. Like we have 10 days in the practice space. So we kind of had to like front load and make sure that there was a sense of what we were going to work on and how we were going to do it. And
Yeah, that's interesting too. I hadn't really considered exactly when you left Noah to Lisbon, because that would change the flow of things. And it's fortunate in a way that you guys exist now, when working with each other across boundaries like that is maybe a little bit easier. But I don't even know if that's something you guys like to do even these days, is like trade electronically. Do you feel like you still really have to be in the room?
I mean, they both bring their own pros and cons, but we spend
Yeah,
a lot of
totally.
time like trading stuff for sure.
Yeah.
I think that even in some ways, I mean, we don't want to get into it, but like the pandemic brought that home in a really strong way. I mean, we had
Right.
to make an entire, basically an entire record that way. And I think that kind of we had already spent so many years like tapping into that possibility because
Yeah.
of Noah's move to Lisbon, that I think it feels like it's a natural part of our process. But then, of course, there is something that kind of only can happen when we're in the room or on the road together doing stuff. And that's why we would make decisions like Noah's referencing Centipede Hurts. We were like, okay, we've done three entire records up to that point with Noah being remote and doing these kind of concentrated, like, let's get there for 2 weeks and like work on these 8 songs. Okay, like let's get together in 2 more months and work on these. And like we were just like, what would happen if we just had the thing we used to have, which is just be in the same place for 3 months straight and kind of write from scratch, more or
Yeah.
less. And so that did stand out because that's such a normal
Yeah.
way for us at
Yeah.
especially at that point. This
Yeah.
sort of the whole 2004 through 2010 was like very heavily a lot of trading electronically.
So with Feels, we have 9 songs. I'm curious, not necessarily what each of your like favorite songs are here, but when thinking back to this time or looking through or listening through any of the archival stuff or just kind of even readying this release or considering this release, are there any songs that you guys have a specific strong memory around, whether it's composing them or playing them or singing them or writing them or whatever the case may be, like where do you have those sort of connections to really strongly?
All good.
It's tough to nail down to one. I mean, and I Banshee Beat like always jumps out to me. For me, a lot of the joy from this record was the guitar interplay between me and Dave, and it's something that I think we kind of, I remember stumbling across it sort of in the practice space in early days as we were getting things together, and then as we kind of had more and more practices and like writing sessions, and I think there was just a certain something very specific that happened with like Banshee Beat, Grass, and Daffy to me that sort of like really that particular interplay between the two of us, which I really enjoyed a lot, and I really got a lot of pleasure out of, and felt in its best moments like it sort of happened, like the ideas happened pretty spontaneously. Like Dave would kind of come with a sort of demoed idea, and I would sort of just start playing along with it. And like, I feel like I don't remember because my memory is garbage, but my sense is that something like Banshee Beat kind of almost just happened more or less the first few times we did it.
Yeah.
Isn't Daffy Duck Flesh Canoe? Isn't that one of those titles that's not the...
No, Daffy is Flesh Canoe is like the young red bird, and Daffy is
There
used to
is
be
a
like
song called Daffy Duck on Feels?
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never changed it.
Yeah.
Could have fooled me.
It used to be like a longer 3-parter, and then we kind of broke it up in the studio, and it's I don't know, it's a little spacier, but I don't really know how to.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Flesh Canoe, just because
Yeah.
it feels like a song that's got kind of like you could imagine as sort of having like a rhythm and sort of a meter, but it's kind of blurred and it just sort of like sails along. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure maybe we'd attempted songs like that, but I don't think we really pulled it off until that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Flesh Canoe, or I mean, Banshee Beat isn't. I would probably go back to, like, to me, that's like the song from the record that I always go back to, and I think also like how that we fucked it up. Can you curse on this podcast?
Of course,
because we've been avoiding saying country fuck.
Oh,
sorry, but which was the title for the last one. Like we would mess it up live too, because like sometimes we would just hear the Noah's electronic thing in a different way. Like people would pick different ones, and it was like we would always joke, like even for like a song that felt such like a song, we couldn't even agree on like what was the one beat. Like we would sit there and sound check and be like, where do you hear the one? Like.
Well, isn't that a classic like
three,
4 against 3 kind of thing? Like the loop is in 3 and the song is in 4. So
no,
it's kind of like...
that's Fireworks. Was that was the issue with the fireworks
similar
being
thing though, where
Yeah.
there was a rhythmic sample on the 303 that we would all play to, and everybody could kind of hear where you come into the song sort of differently. So there'd be these moments on stage where we'd have to kind of find each other because people started in different places.
Yeah. So it was always like, yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful song. I think it's one of the best Dave's ever written. I thought like the sonic world of it's really great, but it also as we were just describing, like it felt like a thing also that like you weren't ever sure if you were gonna like, even once it became a popular song, we had to play it. It was like, are we gonna pull it off?
Yeah.
And so it always still felt a little dangerous to jam into it, for such a simple song. Dave and I were talking about the type of song we were just talking about the other day when I was visiting him, and I was naming like songs of his that I thought were really great songs, and he pointed out that I was picking songs where it was like the chord progression actually never changes. It's not like the verses and the chorus, anything changes on the guitar. He's like, and he would say like those were intentional challenges I set to myself. Like, could I just do like 2 chords or 3 chords or 4 chords without ever changing the guitar and only changing the vocal melody? And like, you wouldn't really notice necessarily that the guitar is not changing. It would just be like this, it would feel like a big impactful change, but the only thing changing would be the melody, even though underneath it, nothing was changing. And
that's interesting.
And I think Banshee's like, so it is like kind of a simple song, but again, like for us to find our way into it on stage, from this formless thing was always, I wouldn't say a challenge, but it felt like a little tight-ropey, and those are always fun moments on stage, even when they don't go well.
Right. No, I would imagine.
I always think about this moment when we were playing at the Empty Bottle in Chicago, and I used to put the 303 on a stool, like a bar stool, and it would get pretty rowdy up there, and I guess I kind of knocked over the stool, so the 303 fell and the cables came out in the middle of the song, so the rhythmic kind of bass that we're all playing to cut out. And the rest of the guys kept going, and they were kind of looking at me like, and I picked it up, I plugged it back in, and like when I hit the thing, I set it up because I had to put like a weird delay on it or something like that. I set it up, and like when I hit it, it was right in time with everybody else, and we kind of like kicked right back into it. And I remember Dave looking back like,
they can't see the video, but yeah, Noah's making a fun face.
He is making a fun face. I mean, Banshee Beat's probably my favorite song. I think it did become one of the like stealth Animal Collective favorites over time. But of course, I mean, we'd be remiss if we're talking about like the hits of the record. We'd be remiss not to talk about Purple Bottle, because that
you're gonna say Grass.
Grass too. You're right, I guess. But I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm being
I
little.
know you're right. I should have thought
maybe
Purple
I'm
Bottle.
being a little snobby, but I feel like Purple Bottle's like the real hit, and I feel like Grass was like like the entry point. Because Purple Bottle, according to the ever unreliable Setlist FM, is the song you guys have played the most from Feels. I don't know.
Don't surprise me. We still play it.
Yeah, I was going to say you do still play it. Yeah,
it was. It's a really great set ender. Like it works really well as like good.
Well, it's kind of anthemic. Yeah. And it's kind of a feel good song. I mean, I think it makes people feel good. I think it always has. But like, has this song transformed for you guys at all over time? Because it is one of the more poppy songs on Feels. It's kind of 2 different structures, but they're both pretty structured compared to a lot of what's around them on Feels. I mean, right after it is Bees, which is so dreamy and kind of languorous. But has playing this so often and seeing the reaction and kind of understanding over time that like this is one of the songs for you guys, like has it transformed for you at all over time? How you think about it, how you enjoy playing it?
I still always enjoy playing it. I mean, I was making jokes when we were back in Seattle a few weeks ago. Like, why didn't anybody play bass? Because when we didn't play Feel songs for a long time. And when we did start bringing them back, like we tried 1 or 2 around the, with Merryweather, but then there were certain songs like, Did You See the Words? We didn't play from like the end of touring Feels until like Centipede Hurts touring.
Yeah.
And at that point I had this Moog Taurus, like this bass pedal synth. And it just made sense to me, like, because we were on much bigger stages at that point than we were in clubs when Feels was being played.
Yeah.
Like, well, there needs to be some like low end in this song, especially because like if it was going to be next to like Merryweather songs or Centipede Hurt songs, like it just needed to be consistent, you know? And so I started adding in bass pedal parts. And I don't tour with that thing anymore because it's like 100 pounds, but I still play the parts like with a hand, just like on a regular Moog. Like the bass parts that I wrote, you know, I mean, they're simple. They're just like the root notes, but just to like reinforce them. So to me, it's totally different than like when I was just like using faders on a mixer to like bring noise in and out, you know, on the mini discs or something. And it's more of like a physical fun, at least until the end. Cause like at the end, we used to jump around the stage quite a bit. And now we're kind of like a little bit more rooted to our stations, but yeah, it's a little different for me. And I enjoy playing that one still. I don't have to sing it, you know. You might get a different answer from Dave.
Yeah, it is a bit of a vocal workout. I always wonder about those things because, like, I don't know, Animal Collective as a group, you guys have had a lot of, I mean, you've had a lot of records and you've had some songs over time that feel like, you know, the hits. You know, if you were going to do like a best of Animal Collective compilation someday, I feel like Purple Bottle would be on there. Grass would probably be on there. And I always get curious about those things because people feel sometimes like they have to play these songs. Well,
I mean, but we take things out of the set.
Yeah.
Like we didn't play Purple Bottle in between. Like we finished Centipede Hurts touring in like 2013 and I don't think we played Purple Bottle again until we started touring for Time Skiffs, which was, so it was almost like 10 years, like because COVID was in the middle and Painting With was in the middle. So, you know, and we haven't played like My Girls in a long time, but I don't know if it's done. Like when we bring things back, it's sort of like, you know, it's, you know, people can't see my dog sitting here, but it's like, if like he gets bored of his toys and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go. But like, if he loses a toy, like under the piano or something, and then like you find it, like it's like the best thing ever.
It's like a new toy.
Like, yeah, it's like he never saw it before. Like you just gotta.
Yeah.
But to me, our old songs are a little bit like that. It's like I think we're lucky that we have enough that, like we're older now, so I think we're comfortable with our catalog. We're proud of our catalog, and those moments also. I think I really enjoy the connection with the audience. In the past, that connection of playing new stuff for them and having the response be really strong was really special. And now like that happens with the older stuff, and I don't take that for granted. I really love it. So
it does kind of feel like you have to feel like there's something like a new room in the house of the song that you can go into. Like there's like a or something just, new you can bring to it. You're not just sort of rehashing the thing.
Right. Yeah, which helps because we change up our instruments sometimes that we bring on tour, you know.
Sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
And I would argue, not to argue with you, Noah, but I do think that in recent years there have been times where the fact that it's a song we haven't played in a long time, even if we are kind of approaching it a similar way, the nostalgia of it is kind of the newness of it. It's like, this is, you know, to kind of pick back up and you know, to do Banshee and have it be like, that's kind of Banshee, like that's how we do Banshee, but it like feels, or you know, Reverend. I feel like Reverend was like a pretty, doing that in you know, Desert Days, that was like pretty accurate, you know, kind of like that. This is kind of how that song goes, and I think that in itself can also be exciting. But I think that
I don't disagree. Sometimes distance is enough.
Yeah, but I think that resistance to, you know, what you brought up the idea, Jeremy, of like, you know, do you feel like you have to? And I think that we you know, fought against that idea. You know, certainly we're all very familiar with certain musicians and artists that have, you know, have been playing, you know, since the 60s and have to play that song in the encore every night or whatever. And there's something beautiful in that. I don't knock it, but I think that we kind of, to the degree that we even did kind of get to a point of, you know, I remember the point that we were like, you know, having not been part of Merryweather, but then continuing to play My Girls into Centipede Hurts, and like these guys just being like, we're like really done playing My Girls, and being like, oh yeah, all right, we're done for a while, you know, and like when that point comes back, who knows? But it needs to have something, like Noah's saying, that's just like, and distance might be that thing, or some new revelation about like how the song can feel or what it can represent or how
Yeah.
it can be approached.
Yeah.
I still reject it insofar as if you're playing the thing just because you feel like you should, you're kind of like nobody's winning. You're
Mm,
not doing the thing that you want to do, but the audience is getting like a half-assed version of it, or
right.
Yeah.
something that you don't feel like your heart is in
Right.
either.
I think most of us can probably say that we could count on very few fingers the number of times that we've really felt like we were going through the motions on stage. And I think that when any of us do start to feel that or feel that as a whole, that's like we take that really seriously. Like something's wrong. If you've
Right.
reached that point where you're just like, okay, here we go again, you're like,
Right.
okay, we got to stop or stop playing that song or we got to stop touring, like whatever the thing is, like that's just not a way to represent stuff. It seems like the antithesis of why we do it, you know? So
Yeah.
I feel like it usually happens in practice where we'll try something and somebody's like, nah.
Just not feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we don't revisit Banshee, to be honest, so much. I mean, Dave's not here, so I don't want to speak too much for him, but he's spoken about it publicly enough. Like he has a hard time inhabiting that song with like all of his being and all of his emotion.
Yeah.
And he feels like when he performs it, like if he's like not fully present, and he feels like he's not giving the audience like the thing that made the song so special in the first
Sure.
place, and so he doesn't like to play it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, by that same token, I mean, you don't have to name them, but like, are there songs that you guys have kind of collectively decided that you aren't really going to play again? Like, has that happened before?
I think there's times where we'll be like, we're done with this for now, you
Yeah.
know, and like, I mean, I've already said My Girls. I think we
Right.
stopped playing My Girls. You guys didn't do it did you do it during Painting With? I don't remember.
I
I
don't
think
think
you
I
did.
don't
so.
think so.
Yeah. So I don't think we've,
Fireworks is another one where we just played so much that I remember people being like, I don't think I want to do that one for a while.
Yeah.
but
it,
I think I'm a big believer in like never saying never, you know, it's like, but so
Sure,
I think
yeah.
there's a point where you can be like, we're done for now. And
Yeah.
that might mean forever. Or that might mean, you know, a year, but it's just,
Right.
yeah, it's not reverberating anymore. So it's just time to
Yeah.
put it to rest.
Another element of feels that I was always interested in is the two sort of guest musicians that you have on the record. You have Ivan King on viola and you have Kriya Brecken on piano. Of course, at the time when Feels came out, and I think I must have had the CD because I did not have a record player at that time. And I saw her code name, the doc test code name. I didn't know who she was, but by that name anyway. But I was a fan of Moom, and so I was aware of her outside of that. And then Ivan King, I've come to know through his string work on other people's songs, especially like Laura Veer's tracks and people like that. But what was it like do you remember what it was like sort of welcoming them in to do their thing while you guys were doing your thing? I mean, what did they bring to the creation of this record, not just like the performance of it?
I mean, two really different experiences. Cause I mean, you know, Kristen was, you know, her and Dave were together at that point. She was with
Sure,
us the
yeah.
entire time. So she was in the studio with us. She was part of every day of tracking. She was a really integral part of what was happening, both energetically and
Hmm.
musically at that point, because she was doing so much with piano. So it was a really impactful in that sense. It really it changed the air in the
Yeah,
room and what we were
yeah.
doing. Avens were huge fans of and was a really big deal to like have him be part of it. I mean, I think he was only came to track for maybe just one day, right?
Just one
I don't,
day, and
yeah.
that's how we even
So
ended up like that. I can't remember if we talked about this, Josh, in Seattle at the record store, but like weirdly, like that's how we ended up in Seattle recording with Scott Colburn. I mean, not like 100%, but Dave and I were talking about the song that actually didn't make it on the record, Fickle Cycle,
Hmm.
and how he wanted a violin player, and maybe we could see some other songs where like kind of more abstract string stuff could be cool. And as Josh said, we were huge fans of Avent. Not to derail Josh, what you're about to say about the experience of working with Avent. So,
no, no,
so
no, 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 no,
we
no.
can go back, but
No, you go. You're good.
we'll get back to that. But now I'm on a tangent. Apologies.
No, not necessary.
And so Avon's name came up because we saw his name first on Sun City Girls Records in the mid '90s. He played like on the live disc of the 330 Crossdressers record. And then we saw that he had played he was on some live tapes by this band Climax Golden Twins we really liked, and Scott Colburn had recorded both of those bands. That's how we found him.
Okay.
And we really like that Zodic record that he did.
Yeah, and then he was on Zodic, which I did radio promo for in college. Like they would send me all of their releases. He did a few on Zodic, actually.
It was something in winter. Yes.
Story of Iceland.
Story of Iceland.
Yeah.
And he had a couple before it. Well, anyway,
the red one's really good too.
Yeah, the Mineral Nades one.
Mineral Nades.
Sorry, Avey.
Sorry to get nerdy here.
No, totally.
But everybody should go check out every record we just said. Get your friends. So Avon's name came up, and at that point, in my memory, Dave and Scott and I were trying to figure out if we could reconstruct this. I think this is the way it happened. Like Dave and I had decided on Avon and was like, oh, but like he's in Seattle. How, like, you know, who knows where we're even going to record this record.
Yeah.
And it was like a light bulb at the same, you know, we were just like, oh shit, we could just record like out there with that guy, Scott, at his studio. He's recorded Sun City Girls. He's recorded so many of our favorite records, and we didn't know Avon. So we were like, and Scott knows him. So like it was just like everything, like through that conversation of like, who could we get to play violin on a track? And the whole thing of like how we were going to record the record in Seattle, like came in that conversation. And then we had to reach out and talk to Scott, and that took a little while to like agree and find a time to do it. But yeah, we think the Avon idea like sort of even preceded the Seattle one. Yeah, that's how we got him to come in. And
yeah. It's just, I mean, I feel like those are two pretty notable people, especially in that era in the, you know, indie music scene, and incidentally also in the Icelandic music scene, to come into.
Yeah, I think they knew each other weirdly, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think we knew that.
That Kristen and Avon knew each other?
I think because Avon was really into going to record with people in Iceland in the early 2000s. They at least knew people in common.
We had for Song Tongs, Dave and I had toured a lot with Boom, and that's how they met.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, were you guys like fans of Moom and were excited to have her there? It seems like it was almost like a happenstance kind of, you know, coalescence of.
I think with Kristen being, you know, Kristen and Dave's relationship being so much of like the focus, it didn't feel as much like, oh, member of Moom is on the record. Right. It felt like this person who was kind of at that point part of our like inner circle and like friend base, and our friend was in love with, and so that's kind of more what the energy felt like to me. I don't know if the other guys feel that way, but it didn't. Yeah. In that sense, it was almost like Avon was the bigger deal, and I don't mean to undercut Kristen's like reputation or her any of that stuff, but it was like she was just kind of part of the family. Avon was like, oh man, Avon's coming in today. Like, how is this going to go? You know, like, oh, sweet dude. You know, like there was a little bit more like anticipation or something around that.
No, for sure, yeah.
I mean, sense. Kristen was like sleeping in the same room as the rest of us. You know, like it was. I mean, we were rooting for their relationship. So yeah, like I don't even know, like even Dave said that they weren't technically together when the record was made. Like he said this in this other interview that we were doing about Feels. I thought they were. I don't know, you know, but I mean, we had these,
I thought they were too.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it wasn't our business.
Brian's got the scoop, I guess.
Yeah.
I want to be clear, we were all literally sleeping in the same room. It wasn't we each had bedrooms. It was like we were in a large church, and it was like they were up in like, you know, up a little loft, but like fully open. Like Noah and I were on the floor. Brian was in another room on a couch, but we were all, you know, it was.
Yeah.
Is that, were we all in that tracking room?
Yeah.
There wasn't somebody in the other.
I was in the hallway? I was in the hallway, like foyer thing. But then like one of you had like those like flip couches, and so like one of you, we tried to figure it out, Josh, and like one of you slept on a couch that then like you would fold back up, and then I sat on that couch
to play my parts. So like every night before people went to bed, I had to move my table of gear like out of the way.
Yeah.
We would flip the sofa down, and then
Yeah,
we'd
I
flip
think
it back up the next
you
morning.
guys were right, no, Brian. I think Noah was on that, and I was on the like blow up bed that was like in front of the fireplace that would also get moved every day because
Yeah,
It sounds. I
Close
mean,
quarters though.
yeah,
close quarters.
and it sounds a little DIY. I mean, would you consider it a DIY recording experience?
No, it's a real studio, but it was
Okay.
in Scott's house.
Oh, okay.
It's a very unique space,
Okay.
and he's built the basement now into like a more proper tracking space. But at the time, like he was just
To
it wasn't
us,
like
it felt like Abbey Road. It was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
it was like this old church. I mean, because I also think we hadn't done like a ton of time in like any proper expensive studio. Most of our stuff was DIY at that point, or like
Yeah.
even Rare Book Room in New York where we did some stuff. It's like a real studio again, but it's like I don't know how to describe. It's just like it felt. It's not like you're in like a rock dock kind of a studio with like
Yeah.
crazy acoustic treatment and all this stuff.
and Scott's
Scott's
setup was like relative to like more like the type of studios Brian's talking about, which we have some time in. His setup was relatively modest from a gear perspective. I mean, he was using a digital Yamaha mixer and had like some very, very kind of like basic like preamps and pretty basic mics. He had a cool tape machine. Like he had some cool gear, but it wasn't the type of studio you go into where you're looking at like racks and racks of like analog pre's and all these like crazy compressors and like,
Right.
all these Neumanns and stuff. It was like I think he kind of came from a DIY background to
Yes.
recording and had sort of developed out of that and was at a point where he had the capacity of a professional studio, but it wasn't the same as we would experience going to like pro studios
Right.
down the road. But I'm not diminishing. I mean, Scott did an incredible job. So it's,
Yeah.
He
Still
comes from
sounds
like
great.
the era. He comes from the era of like hardcore punk.
Yeah.
Like he's like was that ground zero for all of that, and like he so he grew up like do it cheap, do it fast, do it like he learned to record in like the hardcore punk days. So
Yeah.
Just
So, yeah, I
another
don't think
example
he-
of that you don't really need any sort of special piece of kit to get something really good.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
Feels does still sound very good. I mean, it really does hold up from a production standpoint. I mean, it sounds very good, especially on headphones. It's very, enveloping and very layered. So DIY background or not, I mean, I think it still sounds very good.
yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot of places to sleep, so we had to make double up on the tracking space and the sleeping space.
Right. So I mean,
Maybe that made it better, Brian.
maybe.
Yeah.
You have this reissue. You had Sung Tung's reissue. Who knows if you're gonna do more reissues? It feels like all of a sudden there's a lot of 20th birthdays coming up, but cross those bridges later. But
Our kids.
yeah, yeah, right. But it's been a couple years since the last new studio album, isn't it now? Which came out in I think 23. When
About 2 years ago.
when or how do you guys realize when it's like time to like come back together? Like, is there some sort of catalyst to that kind of conversation, or does it just sort of happen organically?
I think everyone just has to be ready and on the same page. And I mean, I think the conversations happen like before a little bit, like my stuff's coming to an end because
Right.
people do their own things.
Right.
No,
you're all very busy people. Like obviously.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, it was a little like, I mean, it was mostly for Noah more than anybody else. It was a little like his solo stuff and the band stuff were like simultaneous. And then like we, needed to do it like there'll be a solo record and then a band record, solo record, band record. That's when Dave started jumping in the solo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID really threw all of that, I'd say, out of whack, and I think we're just coming out of it. Now all four of us have solo stuff and people have multiple solo records and side projects and play with other people outside the band, even more so than I think we did in the 2000s. And once you start like on a record these days, it's like, it's going to take a few months to like, it just
takes a while.
So I don't really know like how the next conversation, to be honest, like, I'm saying this in front of these guys, so it's not like an awkward thing. Like, I don't know how the next conversation will take place because everybody's like busy right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is an organic conversation in the sense that things that we were talking about an hour ago about like kind of needing to do things from a place that feels authentic and feels like driven by internal energy. That's such an important thing, and I think that we have learned over many years to just really respect that collectively and individually. Like part of the collective thing is respecting the individual, and so I think that we just kind of know that um, there's a trust in it. I think we all feel like, very musically connected, very relationally connected, I'd say as much as ever.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of a matter of like waiting till the moment that it,
That
something
feels right.
sparks it, and everybody kind of is like, yeah, all right, yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And it's kind of always been that way. I mean, I would say like certainly post, yeah, even parts of the 2000s, there's a lot of eras where like we've ended a record has felt a little bit like, who knows if there'll be another one. Like it always kind of, not like a breakup, but just like,
Right.
all right, we're done for a while. And I think it just always kind of has that energy and has always found a way back. And
Yeah.
so
It's a heavier logistical lift too, so that always has to be part of the
For sure. Yeah.
conversation. Like all four of us still kind of make music with each other and stay in touch pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Maybe not like as a 4-piece, but like I mean, Josh and I. When's this airing?
Is it, soon?
Josh and I are announcing like another. Well, I mean, it's not. People know we did the score because the movie's been in film festivals. But Josh and I, are announcing like a vinyl version of a movie score we did like on Monday.
Okay.
I was just visiting Dave to like work on stuff for a little while. Like
This won't be out by Monday.
I sent a I bunch of shit to Noah and Josh for them to use on Sinister Grift. Like it all happens, but like that kind of stuff is a little easier to be like, hey, do you want to quickly work on this thing, or like a couple tracks for a compilation that we can all record our parts remotely, versus like we're getting ready to commit to like travel production sessions, like songwriting sessions.
Like 3 years. Gather all your ideas and let's try to see where everything fits, and that takes a while to kind of figure out how it's all gonna fit together,
and then we'll have to figure out who has to be home for their 50th birthday party, and
yeah, it's a many.
It's not an exaggeration at this.
No, yeah, it's a many part moving machine. Yeah,
I'll be first in line.
And when is that?
Next record cycle. Josh, you probably will turn 50.
My birthday is January 6th.
Okay.
I had it first, and
Sid Barrett had it first.
Fair enough.
A bunch of people had January 6th first.
Well, it's the 12th day of Christmas, so the Bible had it first.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I'll be 48 this January, so
well,
you can do the math.
All right. Well, the Feels reissue is out now. Comes with a slew of B-sides, demos, live cuts. Was it remastered too?
No.
Okay. I didn't remember if it was remastered or not. But it doesn't need to be. It sounds great.
I think we all kind of have a little bit of a hesitation on remasters. I feel like it feels a little, I don't know. We've all kind of had experiences of records that we kind of fell in love with in their original sound, and then heard a remaster, and you're kind of like, I mean, it sounds better, but does it sound better? Like, I don't know.
Right. Does
so
it feel better? Yeah.
I can't swear that we haven't remastered anything before, but I feel like whenever that conversation comes up, we're just like, it's not broke. Like, what's there to fix?
That reminds me of a time I was at like a record fair, and I was looking for PJ Harvey vinyl, and this old man next to me was like, he saw me pull one up. I don't remember what it was. He was like, I wouldn't get those remastered versions. I would get the originals. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And put it back down.
It's kind of what you fall in love with.
Very real.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what people fall in love with. Like, I always think back to like, being a huge Sid Barrett fan, and Piper at the Gates of Dawn being like one of my favorite records ever, especially as a teenager. I probably would have been like, that's the most important record to me, and hearing about the mythical mono version that like I had never heard. I'd only heard the like so-called lazy like EMI stereo. It's similar to like the Beatles stereo. It's like the drums are all on one side or whatever.
Like the band wasn't even there for the mixing of the stereo version.
Yeah. And then when we were in college for the 30th anniversary of Piper at the Gates of Dawn, they released a CD of the mono version was the first time it was available on CD, and I remember like rushing to the record store to get it and listening to it, and I was like, "This isn't the record I love. Like it's not it." And I listened to it once, and I've never listened to it since.
It makes sense to me.
Because it sucks.
Yeah.
Put that on the box, because it sucks. All right. Well, Noah, Brian, Josh, I so appreciate you guys taking an hour to hang out with me and chat about Feels and Animal Collective and everything in between.
Likewise. Yeah.
Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah.
Thank you for being interested after 20 years.
I'll be interested for 20 more years. Don't worry.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.